Humanianity, a new religious call. Humanity, religion for us all. Humanity, now we all can see. Humanity, how much better we can be.
Hi, I'm Bill Van Fleet, and this is Humanianity Conversation number 83, recorded on October 31st, 2020. It is the 40th recorded conversation with my friend Mike. This time we made substantial progress in coming to agreement regarding our separate worldviews. We both were able to discover significant flaws in our ways of thinking and to correct them, leading to better agreement. At the end, we expressed appreciation for each other's engagement in this in depth, personally meaningful discussion. This, I believe, is seriously needed by our species, rather than just agreeing to disagree and avoiding such discussions involving important issues.
So I had, yeah, I think as I texted you, I emailed you and texted, I emailed and texted you. Um, I had, as usual between our conversations, I think about the topics we talk about probably almost daily. And I had definitely had, I certainly had a little bit of a shift in my perspective and attitude. I'm going to be a lot more careful. And it was really due to a contradiction that um, I'm still working out in my thinking. But I'm certainly going to be much, much more careful um, implicating concepts such as a priori, a posteriori, and I'm going to be much more accurate to um, a true solipsist perspective. A lot of the things that I've been doing in our discussions, I've been kind of injecting my own spin on it, and I was doing that because I had I was communicating an evolving thought that I was having, um, but I was still working through those thoughts kind of weekly as we were talking, um, almost like I was kind of figuring things out with you in our discussions, and as a result of that, um, you kind of were, and everybody who might be watching this, were kind of seeing my thinking evolve, and but I think based on some of the work I did this past week, some of my thinking I'm not comfortable with uh, as much as I was when we had first talked, specifically about the relevance of of a priori in questioning the existence of things, and also something that I had said, which I'm beginning to question. Not beginning, I have questioned. Does thinking about something constitute an experience? Those two things I've changed. Well, I've certainly changed my thinking about them, but they have a big question mark on them now.
Okay.
I don't think my fundamental position that the only aspect of your perceptions that you can um, have confidence in, a great deal of confidence in, is just your perceptions, and that making a jump from your perceptions to something existing and maybe kind of define what that is, I still think is a leap.
Well, what do you mean by confidence then?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. um, I say again, so I'm going to stick to. I'm going to I'm going to trust the people who are a lot smarter than me, who thought about this stuff for thousands of years before I started to put my own spin on stuff.
Well, wait.
Confidence means confidence. It's.
Well, wait. Hold on just a minute.
Go ahead.
For me, confidence means the strength of the belief that it is actually so.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now go ahead.
Right. Or it could be the confidence that you have in something not being so. It's just if you have a belief in something, I would almost constitute confidence as a feeling. Confidence is a feeling that you have in the accuracy of your belief, whether that belief is pro something or against something.
And by accuracy, what do you mean?
The belief is accurate and trustworthy. No, it's accurate.
Accurate. What does accurate mean, though?
It doesn't mean accurate against some type of idealized truth.
Not what does it not mean?
Yeah, well, I'm getting there. I'm gonna work through what it's not first. Doesn't mean that. What it means is, I guess it's just accuracy. I mean, let me see if I'm confusing accuracy with confidence. I shouldn't have used the word accuracy. What I really mean by that is confidence. So let me state that again.
Well, can we get
the idea of the
accuracy?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I should not have used that word.
Yeah, but what does it mean?
Oh, what does accuracy mean? Mm-hmm. Oh, just like in general, what does accuracy mean in general? To be accurate with something. I think accuracy means accuracy is much more of accuracy is a belief. So if I'm accurate against something, what I'm saying, if I'm saying something is accurate, it means that my perceptions reflect my beliefs, support my beliefs.
Wait, you said accuracy is a belief. Now I don't.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm trying. I mean, that's why I had said, I shouldn't have used the word accuracy. But if I am going to use the word accuracy, and you just ask if I just ask what it means, what does accuracy mean? Mm-hmm. Accuracy means when your perceptions of things support your beliefs, you consider your beliefs accurate. That's what accuracy means.
I'm sorry, say it again one more time, please.
When your perception of something reflects your beliefs about something, about that thing, you consider your beliefs accurate. So it's when your perceptions coincide with a belief you're having, you then consider that belief to be accurate. So, for example,
so in other words, if you believe the Earth is flat, but you believe it strongly, then it's an accurate belief.
No. What I'm saying is that if you believe I was about to use a different example, like the existence of God, but the Earth is flat is even better. If you believe that the Earth is flat, and I've watched a lot of documentaries on flat earthers. If you believe that the Earth is flat, and you do some kind of quote unquote scientific rudimentary experiment that gives you the result that the Earth is indeed flat, then you consider that result to be accurate. However, let's do something even more crazy. Let's say you take a spaceship up to, high orbit around the Earth, and you see the world is actually round. And the person interprets that experience as in some way supportive of a flat Earth. That it's not really three-dimensional. It's really just a sphere. It's really just a circle, not a sphere. That experience would be considered, think, well, okay, I have an accurate belief because I've had experiences or I have data that supports that belief. So that's how I would describe accuracy. I think accuracy is when you have a perception that supports your belief, you consider the belief to be accurate.
You consider it to be accurate. Could you
Right.
make a mistake and it not really be accurate?
Well, I think that's not what I mean by consider. I mean, when I say you consider something accurate, it's like it is not. It's almost like a non sequitur. It's like you kind of can't. If I if I believe the thing is accurate, whatever. If I believe A is accurate, I believe it's accurate. I believe that this is
Yes, but what is
correct.
it? But what does it
It
mean?
means that my perceptions have supported a belief, and therefore my belief is accurate. And the key idea here is that I can interpret, and I've met lots of people that way, that have experiences, perceptions of things, and interpret them in a way that, in my opinion, are crazy, but in a way that support their beliefs. It happens every day, all of the time. So I think that's what accuracy means.
I'm sorry, then accuracy means what?
Accuracy. So let me just go ahead and answer the question. Can you be wrong when you consider something to be accurate? I think we have to talk about what wrong is.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Whose definition of wrong do we take?
Well, see, what I would say is that the belief system that you are struggling to present.
I don't think I'm struggling, but okay.
Well, you've been, anybody watching would say that you've been struggling and struggling and struggling. Oh, no, I got to rule that. No.
Well, right, but well, if I'm struggling,
but at any rate, going back.
well, I just want to comment that if anyone is watching, the reason why I'm struggling is because I got like 3 hours of sleep last night, and my oxygen level was like 78%. So I essentially haven't slept for 24 to 48 hours. But in any case, so the reason for that, I don't think reflects any. If what you might be saying is reflect some kind of something about the beliefs itself, I would tend to differ. But continue.
Well, you have, I think, in our discussions, you've talked and talked and talked, trying to get across an idea, and it's not. It continues to come across as being an idea that is strange and has no or no easily identifiable value to it, and indeed results in communication breakdown and in probably a fair number of negative results. But hold on a minute, please. But and the impression that I get is that this belief system, solipsism or whatever you want to call it, your variety of it or whatever, is something that is totally independent of how you actually live your life. And the reason that I say that, well, there are lots of reasons, I guess, but see, from my standpoint, I have, please let me finish this.
You're going on to
From my standpoint,
you're going on to several concepts,
yes,
and
I know,
I'm
but
disagreeing.
please let me give a presentation here.
Okay, I'll write down some of my
Okay,
my
try to pay attention to what I'm saying, though, that from my standpoint, I have been doing many things during this week, and occasionally have thought of you. But I do believe that you have continued to exist, even though I was not thinking about you or having any thoughts about anything having to do with you. Whereas the belief system that you're presenting is that you believe that only at certain times have I come into existence, and only as an imagination, an imagination that is currently operating within your subjective experience, that I go in and out of existence depending upon whether you're thinking about me or not. And I think that those two ways of looking at things, mine is consistent with the way everyone thinks, and it's internally consistent, and that yours is, well, the word bizarre jumped into my mind. And so I wanted to I wanted to get that perspective in here, that I cannot help but regard. I've given a lot of thought to what you have said and so forth, and I keep seeing the problem come up where if you use the words in the way that they generally mean, like the word accuracy and so forth, and reality and so on, that it throws you for a loop, and you have to think a lot and introduce terms like a priori and so on, that then require further elaboration of that thought in order to come back to understand what you're trying to say. Now, you may indeed have a very valuable concept here. I have been trying to understand it for, for conversation after conversation after conversation. I've been trying to understand it, but I keep coming back to the same thing. I don't think that it is a usable conceptual system. Okay, I'm finished.
Okay. Well, I like how you ended the presentation, but when you use the word "I don't think," because that was one of the reasons I was breaking my hands up. So let me just address what you just said in general. So you started your presentation by saying, there's no value, there's a breakdown in communication, there's a difficulty in communication, and you had a whole bunch of other things. Well, that's because I'm not talking to a solipsist. There have been thousands and thousands and thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people throughout history that have been a solipsist who, if I was speaking to them during these, let me bring you back up, during on some kind of Zoom meeting, would say we wouldn't have difficulty communicating with them at all. They know exactly what I'm saying. They wouldn't have. It would be consistent with the way they were thinking. I would be using words that they would understand and the words that they wouldn't have difficulty with. They wouldn't ask me to define what you mean by existence, define what you mean by reality,
Right.
define what you mean by a priori. So,
Right.
right. So then you also mentioned something. Mine is consistent with the way everyone
Can
thinks.
I mention one thing here?
Sure.
That there are thousands of groups that have all sorts of ideas where they all agree with each other. QAnon, for instance.
Right. So let me now. That was my next point. So my next point is, you also mentioned that your thinking is consistent with the way everyone else thinks, and you use words like everyone else uses.
Yeah, not exactly.
Okay. Well, it's something like that. You use words that everyone uses colloquially. Consistency and popularity popularity, an idea being popular is logically fallacious. You don't say something is accurate or something, you don't necessarily believe in something simply because it's consistent with the way people think, nor do you believe, in my opinion at least, do you believe in something because it's popular. So I think that the two major points in your presentation, which you finally, I think at the end of your presentation, communicated as my judgment. I judge it has no value. I judge it's a breakdown in communication. I have difficulty in blah, 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 et cetera, what you said was just your beliefs. And I, in what is the word I want to say? With regards to your presentation of your ideas, I certainly understand them, but I would also say that you have done nothing to show or convince in a way that is really undisputable that they're true, for me at least. So you're absolutely right. So what I'm left to do when I consider adopting your belief systems or part thereof, I'm reduced to asking myself, well, should I believe it just because most people do, or should I believe it because it's consistent with the way other people think and consistent with the way people use words?
No.
Right. Well, but then maybe I should, but but then I said, well, wait a minute. If I was speaking to, if I went to, if I was sitting with a solipsist or a Pyrrhonist, they would know exactly what I was talking about, and I would be conversations would be going, we'd be reaching agreement much faster.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, the failure of you or I to present any type of convincing argument, undisputably convincing, is in and of itself supportive of a solipsist position with regards to truth and what we consider things to be accurate or not, and what accuracy means, and what truth means, and what belief means. So just what we're experiencing right now, thought of from a certain point of view, is in and of itself supportive of my view. So that would be my rebuttal.
Well, I think I would have one, but I don't think that you would accept it. I think that the evidence for there being a reality, and that one can make mistakes and one can accurately develop accurate beliefs, and on the basis of that, make predictions that turn out to be so, has demonstrated its its reality. Let's say it has, by virtue of what we humans have been able to do, by virtue of the use of the rules of logic and the rules of evidence, our science. Science is based upon the idea that one's beliefs can be correct or incorrect, accurate or inaccurate. And only if one's beliefs are accurate can we do complicated things like make cell phones and computers, or build skyscrapers and bridges, or go to the moon, or find a vaccination for COVID, and so forth. That that one's belief that a vaccination for COVID is effective may be an inaccurate belief. It may turn out to be inaccurate. That reality is that no, it is not effective, and so forth. So the whole concept of the importance of accuracy of belief, meaning having one's beliefs be increasingly accurate models of reality, is important to our very survival. And to disregard that and to say, oh, well, if you believe it strongly, then that's what exists at that time. And then if you change your mind, well, it's that reality, that there is no such thing as reality, so you've just changed your mind and it's all just up in the air, or whatever it is. So
Whatever it is really important.
yes.
I'm concerned either I have done a terrible job communicating my beliefs or a solipsist position, it could very well be the case, or you're holding on to a preconceived notion you have about solipsism that
Okay.
you believe to be true. Because solipsism is not, again, I've said this a few times, solipsism is not the idea that reality, what you and I would consider reality, does not exist. That's not solipsism.
Do you and I consider that there is a thing, reality? Here's the struggle.
It's not a struggle.
Okay.
A solipsist would answer that question, and I'm going to answer this question, but it's not a yes or no.
See?
It's not a yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably or most likely not. But that's not even the real salient point of solipsism. The salient point of solipsism is that two things. One is that there is forever an unbreakable barrier between what you understand to be reality and reality itself. That's the curtain we've talked about.
Okay, yes.
That's one which we agree upon.
Yeah, well, but it depends on what you mean by unbreakable barrier. no, you and I think, both agree that that our beliefs and our perceptions are just models of reality, and they can be correct or incorrect or partially correct. And we can have varying degrees of confidence in their correctness, confidence in our belief as to how correct they are and so forth, or the probability of their being correct. Um, and I know that you have spoken about solipsism as having two components, although I don't think you have divided it into two components, although you were about to a little bit earlier, I think. One has to do with confidence. In other words, how confident can you be about X? And the other is whatever X is.
Well,
So
that wasn't the other thing, but that was, I would
that
that's
wasn't a good verbalization of it, but uh, what you're saying is, if I understand you correctly, that the solipsist says that you can't be confident um, about anything, although
no.
although they will say, no, you can be confident about your sensory experience at this moment. And I don't think that one can be confident about that.
Well,
Wait, if one explores what the word confident means, confident that what? Because, for instance, right now you are experiencing something, and you're making the assumption that that is indeed what is happening. But it could be that this is a dream for you. I know it's not, but for you, you could be having a nightmare.
uh, or it could be something that is neither a dream nor waking. That's something else we've not experienced yet. Um,
Say it again, please.
it could be neither a dream nor a nightmare. It could, or wake. It could be neither a dream or wakefulness. It could be something we've not experienced yet. But that being said, that is a completely. But I just want to say before I move on, that
Okay.
is a completely valid, reasonable, even logical perspective to take.
What is?
It is there. It is completely rational and logical to say what we could be experiencing now is neither dream nor wake. It's something different, and we will, for example, perhaps realize what that difference is when the body dies. That's a completely reasonable, rational possibility.
Mhm.
And this really goes to my second um, point when I divide up solipsism into two kind of areas. I think you got close enough with the first division, um, which is uh, you know to kind of moderate the degree of confidence you have about things other than your perception. But I think for me the most relevant part is the second half of that, which is don't be so quick. No one should be so quick and so willing to claim I know the way it is. That's where the practical utilitarian aspect of solipsism comes in. You know,
Okay.
you
And I would like to say, uh, yes, but I do not see that as being dependent upon the solipsistic position. I have the same belief as you do, but I do not have the solipsistic position that you have as far as I can tell. But I agree that we should be able to question anything.
I'm not talking, I didn't mention question things. What I said was, maybe I'll say it in, instead of using the word don't, I'll say it in a more positive way, more an affirmative way. You know, people should be a lot more humble than they are in realizing their limitations and not be so quick to claim that they have some kind of special or otherwise special access to the truth and reality, especially such that I can try to dominate other people or try to convince people to adopt my way of thinking.
Okay,
And
and see, right, and I agree with you about that.
well, of course, right.
Okay, so I
I know you
have
do.
I have belief system A, you have belief system B. We both have this particular belief that you just outlined. So it is not dependent upon one or the other of these two belief orientations.
Yes, but I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong about your belief system. I think the cause and the reasons you have for not claiming a superior position to another has nothing to do, has only to do with your realization that being dominant and trying to dominate another leads to PSDED.
No,
Oh
well,
no. Okay.
no, but I think that um, that is to some extent an outcome. In other words, our inability as members of the human species to um, to increasingly come together and work together um, cooperatively rather than dividing up into warring tribes and so forth uh, uh, is uh, is extremely important and dependent upon that that there that our tendency to enter into a struggle for dominance um, with anger and so forth, and even worse, when there is difference of opinion, is a major cause of the horrible pain, suffering, disability, and early death that we humans inflict on ourselves.
Okay. So then this is um, you can come to the same conclusion. Your belief system can come to the same conclusion as a solipsist belief system, but have different reasons for getting there. So yours, I would claim, does have to do with PSDED and your desire not to accentuate it and continue it into the future. A solipsist would not, doesn't try to dominate other people for a different reason. They don't try to dominate another people because they firstly realize that they don't know the truth. And as a result of not knowing the truth, because they can't know the truth, it's really only your belief system, there's an implicit automatic recognition of another person's belief system as just as valid as yours and mine. So for example, yeah,
Just as valid, that's the first place where we deviated.
yes,
I was with you in agreement with what you were saying
right.
up to that point.
Now, I would claim that um, in order for you or anybody to exercise dominance over someone else, there needs to be a pre-existing necessary condition. And that pre-existing necessary condition is an exaggerated sense of confidence they have in their belief system, such that
Would that be true in chimpanzees?
I don't know. I would say, I would claim personally, yes. A chimpanzee, or in my opinion, I see where you're going with this idea. Maybe a better example might be a lion killing a deer for food.
No.
No, so chimpanzee. Yes, absolutely. A chimpanzee, from what I understand of chimps, have a high enough whatever brain functioning, or sophisticated enough brain functioning, to have social hierarchies, to use tools to plan for the future in such an entity, a being. I would claim that there are beliefs. That there is a belief that, for example, the person who is deviating from the social norm that the group is going to kill is deviating from the social norm. That's a belief.
What about lobsters?
Well, that's where I was going with it. How about lobsters? How about a dolphin? How about a lion? And I think that dominance, um, just like I mentioned before with solipsism versus empiricism, dominance, there could be a lot of reasons for dominance, not just a belief system. So you could also, for example, a lion killing a deer could appear like dominance, but
No,
is it
that's not what I'm talking
right?
about.
Right. Well, exactly. That's not dominance. That's killing.
Are you
That's
familiar with the finding of lobsters?
no, but I'm not. Please continue with lobsters.
Well, apparently, it can be demonstrated that lobsters are sensitive to who is dominant over whom, or sensitive to whether I, lobster A, am equal to or above or below that lobster B. And it affects the serotonin system in the brain, and affects performance of the lobster. And I don't know a lot of the details. I just ran across it, but it is a very significant sort of thing. In other words,
Boy, that's wrong.
The whole idea of within the species dominance hierarchy, um, that's something that is built strongly into us um, as social animals.
Maybe we have to talk about maybe what a belief is, but I'll still maintain the same thing. You could an entity, a being can exhibit dominance behaviors on the basis of uh, instinct, on the basis of belief. It doesn't necessarily require one or the other. And I would claim, at least in the way that I'm using dominance,
And belief.
right? Dominance for a human is synonymous with the belief, in my opinion.
Well,
And
I don't follow that.
well,
Uh,
meaning that this, um, I don't believe. Let me go through this for a minute, because I'm forming this as I'm going. I don't necessarily think. I really wanted to get to something else you said, but let's continue with this. I don't necessarily believe that humans are are I don't believe that humans have the same. We have, I don't know what word there is for this, Bill. You know, a lobster's experience of itself and a human's experience of itself are two different things. I don't believe that a lobster has anything other than instinct to guide them. Whereas with humans, I think that there is a mixture of instinct and conscious decision making.
Okay, so what's happening is this is bringing in the mind-body problem. You're talking about consciousness.
No, I'm
And
not talking. Well, no, I'm not talking about consciousness. I'm talking about saying a lobster can't say to itself, "I want to." A lobster can't do this.
it does not have language.
I'm not even talking about language. For the lack of a better word, I have to use language to describe this
Okay,
concept. A
okay.
lobster cannot have an instinctual motivation to attack another lobster and say to itself, "But wait a minute. If I do that, I'm going to expose myself to that shark over there. So maybe I shouldn't do that." They don't have that higher reasoning beliefs of what could happen. They just have an instinct and they go. But the important thing to recognize is that that instinct can cause the lobster to engage in dominant behaviors in the same way that a human coming to a certain conclusion and decision can cause them to engage in dominance behaviors.
Are you saying a lobster cannot develop beliefs?
I think it's a solidly. Probably not,
Okay,
I would claim.
so here, here is where we have a major difference in use of words. And my impression is that you are somewhat equating belief with the linguistic modeling of that belief, i.e., the putting of it into words. That's probably.
I remember we went through this before once. We went through this once before.
Yeah, so let's briefly make sure that at least you know what I mean by the word belief. And what I mean by the word belief is what most people mean by it. And that was, see, whatever you're doing right now is because of your belief that it will lead to a particular outcome. When
Go ahead. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm fully engaged. I got you.
okay, yeah, the activity is
Sorry.
disorganizing, but and I have a worry about divided attention and so on. So, so the what belief is biologically is the development within the nervous system or its equivalent of a habitual response by virtue of repetition, or it may not be entirely accurate. No, that would not be entirely accurate. But at any rate, an observable modification, excuse me, of behavior by virtue of having experienced something about the world. But even that is not real good, because there's the possibility or probability that we could actually take instinctual behavior or reflex behavior and say that that is built-in, genetically determined belief. But that's because reality, my reality, uh, doesn't have any binary divisions in it, or boundaries that are precise, such that something is true on one side of the boundary and false on the other, and so on. That's us tending to categorize things to increase the probability of success. So, so again, I may have no conscious awareness of my beliefs operating as I'm driving along, and my hands make subtle movements on the steering wheel. They are based upon my belief as to what will happen if I do that. So that's completely unconscious, outside of awareness, but it is a model of reality. And if that belief is incorrect, then I will make a mistake, and I will find all of a sudden that things are different than I believed that they were going to be. But that belief then gets more and more complex. I believe that when I turn the corner, I will get to Harris Teeter. I believe that Harris Teeter is just around the corner. Or I believe that Thursdays are senior citizens discount days. Or I believe that that we live in the United States and that we have a system of government that is flawed in various ways, et cetera, et cetera. I believe that I am on a surface of a sphere that is rotating, even though I can't experience it. I believe that the Earth goes around the sun. I believe that the model, the scientific model that involves the concept of the black hole, is probably quite accurate, but it may not be completely accurate. So all of this is belief, and what it has to do with is change in the nervous system, generally in the brain, that is connected to something about the external world, i.e. experience, the experiencing of the external world. So that's what I mean by belief. So you can study a belief by looking at the behavior of an organism, or you can study belief by looking in the nervous system and seeing what pathways have been set up that where certain synapses are more active because they have been activated in the past, etc. Or you can study belief by asking certain animals, namely humans, well, what do you believe about this? What do you think about this? How do you see this? And there'd be countless ways of referring to belief. What is your opinion? All of these, there are all of these ways of referring to this very important concept of belief. And so if you have a different concept of belief, then we're speaking a different language.
We've talked about this before, and I don't think we ever came to agreement on this.
Mhm.
And I've brought up this objection before. You are essentially combining beliefs. You are claiming that beliefs that have become unconscious, such that if I turn the wheel left, the car will go left, with beliefs that are conscious, like African Americans are bad and deserve to die. And that is, I don't, maybe that, let me use the example you gave, like black holes exist. They're not appropriate. Those two, to claim those two constitute the same thing, they are both beliefs, is just, I don't feel that's appropriate.
So there's a dividing line.
There is a dividing line between
There's
a belief in, if I turn the wheel left, I'll go left, and the belief that Jewish people are scum and deserve to be killed in gas chambers. Those two things, I'm using that other example of the Jews and Jewish people to really highlight just how different those two things are. You could kind of rationalize them to say, well, they're both beliefs and it's that and the other thing. But in practice, those two are very, very different things.
Well, I think that they're what you're referring to in part is most likely the difference between existential beliefs and ethical beliefs.
No.
In other words, that
I'm not. No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Well, to say that the Jews are scum and should be killed, should is an
forget about the salient point in that statement was not the should part. It's that they're scum. So forget about the should part. To believe that, to equate the belief that if I turn the wheel left, the car will go left, and the belief that all Jewish people are scum, to equate those two things are not, it's not invalid from any other point of view other than one of those beliefs requires you to think about them actively, and the other belief you can exercise without thinking about it. It's automatic.
Okay.
Those are two different things.
Okay. But I'm not disagreeing with you about that. I said that beliefs range all the way from the beliefs that make me turn the steering wheel this way and that without my paying attention to it, to beliefs in black holes and so forth. That that is those beliefs are on a continuum. So yes. I was saying that if I believe Harris Teeter is around the corner, so I should turn my steering wheel left. That's the belief that Harris Teeter is around the corner.
Right.
Is a more complex belief, and it's based upon maybe having been told that it was.
I understand. But this is analogous. I could say the same thing about a human and an ancient hominid that lived 2 million years ago. It's not they're all on the same continuum. We're all hominids.
Yeah.
But it's not appropriate to claim a Neanderthal or some early hominid like Lucy is you can call them human, or you can call me whatever Homo paleantithesis that was, that Lucy was. Okay, they're not. They're two different
they're
things.
Hominids. You call them hominids.
Yes, I know but the problem is you call them hominids, but you are using characteristics of a hominid to explain human behavior. You could claim they're on the same beliefs, are on the same continuum, but you cannot use the same system of thinking to explain turning the car left as you can with all Jews are scum. They're two different. They might be beliefs, but they are so different from each other that they warrant different words.
Well, okay, there are two different beliefs that are different from each other and warrant further um, delineation by the use of other words. I would agree with that. So you have a set, and then in that set are subsets. All the subsets belong in that set.
I have to get him, Bill. I'm sorry.
Okay.
He just jumped off the bed.
Uh,
Okay, continue. You need to start from the beginning because I missed some of that about the sets and the subsets.
yeah. Okay, so you have a set, and it can contain 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 items in it. And within that set are subsets. All of those subsets are members of the set, but they can be further delineated by describing properties that each of the subsets has that the other subsets do not have.
Right.
But they all have a common set of characteristics that.
Let me take an example and show why it's valid theoretically, but the way you're using it practically, it becomes invalid. So let's take a machine. A machine is a set of a whole bunch of thousands of different things. So let's take two machines. Let's say a computer and a car. And you're going, and I'm going to present an argument to you that a car and a machine, a car and a computer are both machines, and they are, and I can use them synonymously when I'm talking about moving a person from point A to point B. Okay, they're both machines, yes, but the regarding the topic you're talking about, even though they're both machines, there are materially relevant differences between them, such that given what we're talking about, moving someone from point A to point B, they might still both be machines, but given the concept we're talking about, they are so different from each other. The fact that they're machines are completely irrelevant.
Well,
The same thing with beliefs.
well, now you've introduced the term irrelevant. Irrelevant has to do with the purpose for using the word. And indeed, there may be no purpose for using the word machine because of the context of the discussion.
Well, that's what I claim. I claim that if you're talking about beliefs, then you have to use a different word when you are talking about a belief in, if I turn the wheel, the car will go left. Excuse me, and a belief that all Jews are scum. Those two beliefs.
Okay.
Are so materially different.
Okay, one is an automatized belief and one is a culturally induced belief. They're both beliefs.
I think we have to talk about what automatic is,
Okay.
and we have to talk about cultural. I think that there are other characteristics that separate those two beliefs that are materially relevant to,
well, there may be
to like the lobster question that we were talking about before, about whether a lobster can believe in something, or whether and whether or not once a belief that is taught becomes unconscious, is that still materially a belief?
Yes.
I Now, so is something a belief if you can't, if you're not a, if you, for example, if you believe in something for so long and so entirely that it becomes um, something that cannot be changed, I would say that's the material difference between beliefs. So I don't think that I can
I mean,
that it's materially relevant. So it's a necessary character, a necessary characteristic, a necessary attribute of a belief is that it can be changed. So one of the things,
and what you're saying that by definition a belief can be changed?
yeah, well, that's one of the things we think we need to talk about. So what are some of the attributes that make a belief a belief? I think one of them might be the fact that a belief can be changed. Someone can believe A and then not believe in not A. That would constitute one of the attributes of a belief. So, given that, so
Well,
someone could consciously change their beliefs at will.
that now that introduces uh, the idea of an agent that can look at its beliefs and change them.
There you go. That's the difference. But that's what I'm talking about with the difference between a lobster and a human. That's the idea of agent.
Well,
And
I don't know that it's relevant. Neither you nor I have been able to spend time being a lobster and to know what it's like.
well, that's why, if you recall, when you brought up the lobster question, I said, I don't know if this is even valid to talk about because I have no idea what it's like to be a lobster. However, that's why I said I would think. I prefaced what I said with doubt and humility. I said, I would think, I would guess, I would gather to believe that a lobster does not have agency, okay, that they just go on instinct. And when you're talking about,
that gets into the whole problem of free will versus determinism.
it can
Agency,
be.
the supernatural belief, the scientific study of the natural world, the natural sciences,
Mhm.
is deterministic, and
Yep.
there's nothing in the natural world that has anything to do with consciousness or choice.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's
So,
right. Doesn't mean it's real.
from the
Doesn't mean
standpoint
it's
of
true.
the
But I'm aware of that.
the question that we may be posing is, well, does that lobster have any conscious experience? Now, for you, even
Wait. No, I need to stop you there.
wait,
I
wait,
do.
wait.
Now, Bill,
Let me
you're
finish.
building an argument where I have to
Okay,
stop you. I have to
okay,
stop
okay,
you.
okay. But let me go ahead with this. I had something to say. There's more than one thing actually, but
That's why I need to stop
the
you.
idea the idea of whether the lobster has consciousness or not is something that really can't be answered. It is interesting to note that if you treat the lobster with a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, then its lowered self-esteem, so to speak, is corrected for and its performance improves, just like for humans. Now, for humans, uh, according to my system, there's more than one. There's more than just myself. There's you and other people. And each person can experience depression and can experience other kinds of things. So I don't know that the lobster can't be feeling sad or feeling like giving up and so forth, even though it doesn't put any of that into words. I don't know what it's like to be a lobster. Um, I imagine what it's like to be you or another person,
Well,
but
you do, but
that's just my imagination.
well, you did. You did just make a whole lot of analogies, inappropriately, I may add, in my opinion,
Okay.
between yourself and a lobster. Okay, you use the word self-esteem. You use
why? I was referring to the feeling.
Really?
Why?
How do you? It sounds to me like you're anthropomorphizing a lobster, unreasonably so. It could be. It could be that the lobster has human-like, or we have lobster-like characteristics, but maybe. But to make the claim, to make claims that I give the lobster an SSRI, and they exhibit self-esteem, they should be they are now functioning appropriately within their social group, is projecting, is assigning human characteristics that you do not know whether exist or not in a lobster.
Right. I don't know that consciousness exists in a lobster. I don't know that.
Okay, so when I had raised my finger, I needed to stop you, because you prefaced your entire presentation that you just gave, I think, on the idea that science does not recognize consciousness.
The natural science.
Right, I meant the natural sciences.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so I need to stop you right there, because just because the natural sciences do not recognize something does not mean that something does not exist.
Correct.
So it is, I claim, with certain subjects, it may not be relevant to make an appeal or bring in the perspective of the natural sciences.
What I was talking about was the issue where problems were coming up in our discussion here, with my saying that a lobster could be, quote, depressed. In other words, could be consciously experiencing the same thing that you or I would experience under certain circumstances. That's not something that is knowable.
Right.
That's something that we could either assume or not assume.
Right.
That's a part of the mind-body problem. But it's pointing out that in the natural sciences, there's no place for it. There's no place for consciousness.
Yes, I recall that about the book.
Hydrogen plus chlorine plus anger leads to hydrogen chloride and resentment.
That's a good one.
No such thing. See, there are no variables having to do with consciousness in the natural sciences.
Right. And I think what you just said is a good jumping off point for me to address something that I raised my finger about early in our discussion. And I actually wrote it down. You're talking about the difference between the mind-body problem, natural sciences versus maybe metaphysics, natural sciences versus consciousness. Okay. I would claim that a similar type of argument could be made when you're talking about the natural sciences, and I think you've said as much, the natural sciences' ability to penetrate that unpenetrable barrier that I claim exists between your consciousness and what I would call reality. And I'm going to go through something you just said, and I'm going to point out exactly where you made an inappropriate intellectual leap going from beliefs to existence that I want to just, maybe you can clarify what you meant. A while back, you had said, you talk about the importance of beliefs and being, and that it models existence. You said science is based on is based on the idea that someone's beliefs can be correct, can be accurate or inaccurate.
Oh, wait. To say that science is based upon that. A lot more is based upon it. But yes, science is based on that. So we can go on, but a lot more than
The
just
premise,
based on that.
right?
It is a basically understood phenomenon by everybody. One person can say to another person, no, what you believe is wrong.
Right. And then you had made a corollary statement. You said, only if one's beliefs are accurate can we do complicated things like going to the moon, developing COVID vaccines, etc. Both of which I would agree with you. But then the next statement, you made this leap. Then you said, well, beliefs are accurate models. Beliefs that are accurate models of reality are critical for our survival. You just suddenly introduced this idea of reality and accuracy
Yes.
that came from left field. How does what you just said in any way support the idea of reality? Like when you did, I was like, what?
Well, are you talking about the critical to our survival?
No, I'm talking about in your presentation, you had just exclusively talked about beliefs. Then you said beliefs that are accurate models of reality are critical of our survival. Well,
Yes.
you just inserted a term and an idea, reality, without any type of you did it axiomatically. Like you took it for granted, like reality. Well, of course.
Yes, because my definition of belief is that it is a model of something about reality. In other words, that one's belief is a belief about reality, and it can be correct or incorrect.
And I would claim that is very well possible. What I, as a solipsist, continue to give pushback on
Uh-huh.
is the level of confidence that you have on that idea.
Well, I know that I could be dreaming, and that what I'm saying is really strange, and that I live actually in a virtual reality, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the all of my memories of my um, experiences have all indicated that there is just one world, and I I have had dreams. Um, One lucid dream I told you about, um, but the whole thing uh, fits together. That's not a real good terminology. Um, it is consistent uh, with with what seems to happen from moment to moment. I don't have things happening that make me question that basic orientation, that there is a reality and that I have beliefs about it and perceptions of it that can be accurate or inaccurate,
Right.
and and that are critical to our survival.
Right.
I don't mean every single belief, the accuracy of every single belief is critical to our survival, but but the accuracy of our beliefs is ultimately um, critical, because we couldn't live without our beliefs being accurate. If when you did something,
Yeah.
any old thing could happen in response.
I'm not again. I'm not disputing the idea of beliefs. I'm disputing the idea that you brought in the word reality.
Right,
So
that's what I'm
it
talking about.
it sounds like what you're saying to me which I think it might be appropriate. I think it's certainly what everybody, all non-solipsists do this, is that you're basically saying, well, it seems like there's a reality. That's what all my experiences kind of show me. So I'm going to believe in it. Even though if I really go through it and think about it, it's reasonable to have doubts about that. And I can't really substantiate anything. I can't substantiate the idea of reality in any other way than, well, that's what my experiences are. I have dreams. I seem that I have these ideas and these memories about the world. So it must be, the reality must exist. I mean, for a philosopher to accept, in my opinion, for a philosopher to accept that as sufficient evidence seems inappropriate. I don't think.
But the question is, what is an alternative belief that would you're shaking your head.
I don't think that's the alternative. I think that there's another alternative. Is it could be that the idea of believing in a reality to the degree that I claim you are in its existence is inappropriate, and it's just inappropriate, and there is no other belief yet. We haven't formed it. We haven't thought about it. But just because you don't have another belief system doesn't mean you should just accept the one you have as accurate. That doesn't seem to be appropriate either.
Well, now there's a little bit of a uncertainty in there that if I can come up with no other alternative worldview, then I would say until somebody gives me reason to consider another alternative, then I will go ahead and accept that.
Oh, yeah, for me, I have a different value system.
I will be open to somebody saying, well, there's a different worldview that is even better.
Yeah, I have a completely different value system there, which might be a difference between the two of us. I am much more supportive of the idea of, well, that's really saying something common. I do not believe it is valuable to believe in something that cannot be shown to be true just because there is nothing else to believe in. I don't think that's appropriate for me. What I'm willing to do.
Then you'd have the option of having that one belief system or no belief system at all.
No, it's that you could have, yeah, it's that you can, no, I think, well, that's just for me. Yeah, I mean, for me, the belief system is, without a doubt, having the degree of confidence in a reality that you have is inappropriate. That being said, now that's just for me. That's not the salient part of my presentation. That's for me. That's not, having the degree of confidence is not appropriate.
Why is it inappropriate?
Because because you or I cannot show to a degree to which, I don't know. Let me say this. You or I cannot show that reality exists to the point where my doubts about its existence can be addressed. So now,
I don't know why they can't be.
Now,
in other words, when I take a look at the fact that we have beliefs, and that I have beliefs, and that most of the time those beliefs turn out to be accurate, meaning I don't have the experience of predicting something and it turns out that it's something else.
Right.
And so,
Well, you see, there's another explanation for that I have, but that does not require the existence of a reality. And here, I feel
this
like I'm
explanation.
yeah, I'm again, I'm talking about the level of confidence that I have, that I know what the reality is.
That's
I am aware of it. I am confident of it to the point where I can claim that my beliefs about it are the way it is. That is not
no, wait
something.
a minute, wait. No, my beliefs about it are the way it is. Uh, that's saying my beliefs about it are accurate. About it, my beliefs
Reality.
about it are yeah, and that's reality. What's what
Right.
basic meaning of reality?
Right. So I can't go there. And that's why, so I can say something like, um, I can, I can be, I can use words like I believe my ideas are accurate. I think they're accurate. Um, I should, I can say things like, I could, there are other explanations that I can use to explain reality that let me change what I just said. I
Yeah,
can use I can use words. I'm starting to show my tiredness now. Let me stop it and regather myself.
I
I
don't
can
think it's exactly that.
I I can use
Be on guard. Yes.
I
Uh,
can I can use words. I can I need to regroup. Hold on a minute.
yeah. Okay.
Um, I can explain my perceptions in ways that do not guarantee and necessarily require the use of reality, of the idea of reality. Now, it's possible for me to do it. Doesn't necessarily mean that I don't believe in that reality, but just the fact that I can do it, and just the fact that no empiricist has really been able to make the argument uh, un completely entirely to the point where there's no room for doubt anymore that reality actually exists, are all relevant, very relevant to the degree of confidence I have in that idea.
So again, we're talking about whether reality exists,
No, we're
and
talking about the level of
please,
confidence I
please,
have. No, no, I'm not going to let this say
talking
please.
about you're interrupting me, and I
Well,
can't
because
finish
you're
my
you're
thought.
characterizing me
No,
as
no,
saying
no.
something I didn't say.
I had not finished.
Okay, I'm
I was
sorry.
saying that we have our beliefs about whether reality exists, and then our confidence in that belief. That those are two separate issues.
Okay, say that again one more time, Bill. You have.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
I've
follow it.
been saying this over and over that
Well, they're both beliefs. What's different about them?
no, what I'm trying to do is to clarify how you are presenting solipsism. And you're saying that solipsism, see,
No, it's not. It's my fault. I must be communicating this wrong.
before I even say what I say, you're shaking your head.
I don't think I continue.
And that means that in your mind, you're not listening to what I'm saying or trying to sample it. You're working in your mind on how to say your thing better.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
And
but
I
you're
think
shaking your head before I have actually said it.
because I'm thinking about what you said, trying to understand it, then I think I understand it, and I either
Well,
shake
I
my
have,
head, and I'm not shaking my head with regards to what you're doing. I'm shaking your head to what I'm doing, that I'm doing something wrong.
okay, well, I may be misinterpreting the head shake.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
looked like, when I start talking, you immediately start shaking your head as if to say, Bill, that's not right. Bill, that's not
No,
right.
no, I was shaking my head to say, when I was thinking about what I was saying, that I am giving the impression that a solipsist doubts the existence of reality, and that's I should not do that. That's not appropriate. That it is not appropriate for I cannot claim I'm a solipsist and say that, and claim that I doubt the existence of reality. That's not what a solipsist would do. Either I'm engaging in dominant behavior, or I'm just being argumentative for no reason or something, but that's not accurate. That is not true. A solipsist would not doubt the existence of reality.
Okay, you have earlier said that, well, there's solipsism and then your version of it, which is more extreme.
Maybe I'm mixing the two, but I would, even though what I said before with regards to the failure of anybody to really, without leaving room for doubt, substantiate the existence of reality. There is one thing that almost, well, there's two things to me that almost, that very strongly um, point to the existence of reality, that my perception is sampling, so to speak. And one is the idea that I cannot predict anything that happens. Certain things I can't predict. And there was one other, which I forgot what it was. But these two things are,
Why would that uh, lead you to question?
because it means that, maybe predict's the wrong word, because it leads me, it points to the idea that things are happening completely outside of my own agency. And that certainly seems to strongly imply that there's something out there in existence that is not, um, that is outside of my perception, outside my subjective experience,
Yeah,
which
you
which which I
a
would
little bit
which
earlier
obviously
said
is probably reality.
a little bit earlier you introduced the word agency, which I had done earlier when we were talking about the mind-body problem and so forth. But I think now you've removed it in the next things that you said. And I think that's good because agency brings in a whole bunch of additional stuff.
Yeah. There's also something else. There was that, the idea of that things happen randomly. Oh, right. And the other thing was what there was two. There's that, and there's also just the taken. It is the way that, um, if I kind of step back without adopting any belief systems of empiricist or solipsist, and I would say to myself, what does it seem like it's happening? I'd certainly say it seems like I am sampling reality out there. There's something out there. That is there is some fundamental difference between when I think about something in my head and when my senses give me data. And that difference would, since one I know is in my mind and in my subjective experience, I know that for certain. I'm thinking, and the other thing is getting data
That's in your mind
randomly.
also.
Yes, it's in my mind, but that's not my point. It seems qualitatively different. It seems different to me. And I think the salient difference between them is the fact that there's no agency when something happens to me, to a sense. Like when I'm thinking about something,
Now, that was a leap off
it was.
into a parallel universe.
Explain.
Well,
How is
I
it a leap?
don't think I could. Agency.
Well, let me explain what I mean by agency. When I'm thinking about something, I'm the agent. I'm choosing what to think about. I'm choosing. You know, when I'm sitting in my car and then another car smashes into me, clearly the experience of that something happened to me that was outside my agency completely. So the idea is what caused that, and it's very, you know, the qualitative experience of that getting hit by another car is almost axiomatic. It was something out there, and that out there is reality. So I think for me, those two ideas, and there's probably others if I thought about them, kind of leads to support of the idea of reality. But even that, it's those arguments that I just made. They're not strong enough to forego doubt to the
Okay,
point where it can be considered a proof.
but which are you going to accept as more likely, that there is reality or there is not?
Right. It's absolutely, I would say
That's a yes or no.
that there is reality, that there is a reality. Yes. Now, when you talk about
So
things,
you and I are in agreement.
I think you and I are always in agreement. I think I might have just
I
been,
don't think so.
well, in that point, I think we're
Until
always
now,
in agreement. I
until
think we were all, but we've said before that we both agree there's something behind the curtain. We've said that. I've said that several times. I get caught up when I feel like when we try to prove it, that's what starts tripping me up.
confidence.
It's the confidence in it. That's when I start,
Right.
I think, that's when I start digging my heels in and saying, well, this is not a proof. It's, you
Right.
can't say it is certainly.
Right.
Now, however, the idea of existence and does my wife exist when I'm not thinking about her, I think might be different than reality. Whether or not something exists versus reality is,
Oh,
I think, um,
can you explain? Whether or not your wife really exists?
when I'm not thinking about her.
When you're
Or
not
yes, yes,
Does she really
yes,
exist when you're not thinking
yes,
about her?
correct. I'm going into kind of brainstorming during these discussions, which I said in the beginning of our discussion I would no longer do, but I guess I'm doing it again. But let me think of it this way. Existence means something different, I think, than reality. For something to exist, it's like it's an instantiation of that reality in a sense. Reality, when we're talking about it,
Okay, the problem is with the word existence, because it means somewhat different things depending upon what it is, uh, what it is referring to. For instance, um, do your headphones exist? Does contradiction exist?
but you cannot claim I think in order to examine the accuracy of the idea, do my headphones exist? You have to add an important term. Do my headphones exist?
See,
I want to use the word ontologically, but I can't. So I got to figure another way to do it.
I think you missed my main point. I think it went right past you.
What's the main point?
That the word exist means different things depending upon the context, depending upon how it's being used. And then I gave examples. Do your headphones exist? Does contradiction exist?
Oh, meaning to highlight the different contexts is what you were saying.
Yes.
I
yes,
see.
There you go.
No, I understand what you're meaning by the idea.
Does North Carolina exist?
Right. I understand what you're saying in terms of those are examples of different types of existence. One kind of artificially defined and one, I don't know, material. But that's not what I mean. Both those ideas, one existing materially and one existing by definition, both seem to require thought. And the idea of do they exist independent of human thought is something that that's something I'm very open about. I'm not sure about that.
I agree. If there were no humans on this planet, the word exist would not exist.
Okay.
And it would have no utility. Which is why we have words, is for their utility.
Right. So I don't think this is a linguistic thing. This is this is something that okay, couple of things. Firstly, thinking about existence in the form of materially, the headphones, necessitates, I think, you have to first have the belief about reality and be confident in it to the point where I said before, it's not a proof, it's a belief. Remember, I said that. I said, you and I, it's when you start trying, right? It's when you start trying to prove the idea of reality is where I start having problems.
But proof is something that that applies to a system of logic. So the rules of logic are just rules that allow one to develop a system of propositions or sentences that are internally consistent, non-contradictory, but have nothing to do with the accuracy of those beliefs. Then the rules of evidence are the ones that scientists use to increase the likelihood that the conclusions that they draw from their observations will be accurate conclusions, accurate beliefs.
Well, that's where we go. That's where I could start digging my heels in. You cannot get evidence of reality. So this all boils down to, with regards to the existence of reality, how reality works, your headphones, North Carolina, it all boils down to beliefs.
No, but there is evidence, and the evidence is one thing: predictability.
That is not, to
Can
me.
we address that for a minute without immediately shaking your head and shrugging it off.
I know you're going to say the same thing you've always said. I've heard it quite a few times, but go ahead.
Can you state it for me?
I'll summarize it, I think, in my own words.
Okay.
The ability for you to predict and be wrong necessitates, he's being a pain in the ass. He has to go pee, I think. Necessitates the ability for you to predict and be wrong has the best explanation for that is a reality independent of your subjective experience.
Okay, I guess that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. When
in fact,
to me,
it's more than, hold on, it's more than that. It's what is meant by being wrong.
Okay, explain. That's something new I never heard you say before. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that it's reality is that which exists independent of our beliefs about it and our perceptions of it and so on.
Mhm.
Okay. So independence means it does not have to be the same. If there was no independence,
I'm listening to you. He's going to pee in the bed if I don't take him out. Continue. If there was no independence, just pretend I'm going for a walk, like I'm talking with you, walking in the park with you, and we're talking about these things. If it was no independence.
Yeah, well, see, that's totally disorganizing for me. I can't.
You've never talked and walked with somebody before?
It's a little bit different.
Oh.
I'm in the middle of my presentation, and then what I'm seeing moves around violently, and you're starting to say things that don't have anything to do with what I was saying.
Is that better if I do this? I can still see you, but you were just making an important point. But please continue with what you're saying. I feel like we're losing it, and this is important.
Well, I've already lost it, but I can go back.
Please, yes.
But see, I have the impression, whether correct or not, that when I am presenting my viewpoint, you're hearing it. You're hearing it to a certain extent, but there's other stuff going on in your mind, and
well, certainly there is. I'm thinking about what you're saying. I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm comparing it to ideas that I have. And there's lots of things going on in my mind about it. Sure.
Yeah, but what I mean is that what I say, I think with some clarity in my mind, I feel that impression of clarity does not get elicited in your mind, even though it could, which that could be an incorrect belief, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is, well, I'm not going to say, my beliefs about it, but or why you might be having, the belief that there's a lack of clarity. I do think that you said quite a few things, and I have been able to.
By the way, if you can turn on your camera.
This is not going to be distracting for you?
Well,
if I do that, but let me just finish my point. I think you have made quite a few statements, and I said lots of things which I've successfully, and you've said, and you've confirmed accurately, relayed back to you. I've kind of explained what I thought you meant by before I just said it. the idea of a proof being supportive of the idea of prediction, rather being supportive of the idea of reality. And you had said, yeah, that sounds about right. So I think I do understand.
Yeah, but it actually, we went a step further, and it's that's what is meant by it.
Yes, and I was listening to it. I heard you explain it. You're in the process of explaining it, and listening to you explain it. I think you're very quick to believe that I'm not understanding what you're saying because I don't agree. And that's I do understand what you're saying. I am listening.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that.
Yeah, well, I could be making a mistake about
Yeah,
that.
I do think in that way. I think the ideas that you're presenting, I understand them, and I'm listening to them. And it's the issue is that I don't. There are aspects. Either I entirely disagree with the idea, which actually is very seldom. I very seldomly completely disagree. There are aspects of what you're saying with which I disagree with, which I just communicated to you. I think I had said that where I start getting kind of, for lack of a better word, argumentative, is when I feel like you are trying to present the existence of reality in some kind of definitive way. That's when my solipsism said, well, hold on a minute. What about this? What about that? What about this? And I start arguing against the point beyond the level to which even I believe in it. Like I would not even say reality doesn't exist. But if somebody comes up to me and starts trying to prove to me that reality does exist, that is such, to me, an inappropriate belief that doesn't have strong enough basis for that degree of confidence. I'm going to argue against it. So I think that's more what's happening. And I think I'm much more aware of that now. And I'm going to really try not to do that. And when I am doing that, I'm going to tell you I'm doing it. That I'm arguing against your position because I feel that the level of confidence you have in it is not appropriate. It's not necessarily what I believe. It's just inappropriate.
Well, so let's check this out again. What I'm saying is that to say that I have a belief that is incorrect is a way of saying that there is a reality which is defined as that which is independent of my models of it, my thinking or perception, my beliefs or perceptions about it. Okay, you shook your head.
Yeah, I don't feel. I do not. I don't feel that's a strong enough. I don't feel that is a strong enough. That is not a strong enough argument to say decisively. There's potentially another explanation.
What is that other explanation?
That I've said it before. What you are predicting that is not coming to pass is your subjective experience and nothing more. The idea that this prediction and the outcome of the prediction is still within your subjective experience is hugely important.
Well, yes, but so I agree with that. My my acting on my belief that such and such is so, and then finding out that my prediction based on that turns out not to be so. That's all within my subjective experience.
Correct. So
Okay.
it tells you
Well,
nothing about reality.
I wasn't able to finish. See, this is,
Go
I
ahead.
think something goes wrong.
Oh, Bill,
Uh,
this is not fair to me. You do the
I'm sorry.
exact same thing. You interrupt me with ideas. I feel it appropriate for me to do the same thing with you.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
part of natural communication.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it's when you say wait, stop, then if it's important to you, continue. It's okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe I'm being unreasonable there. Um, so what I'm saying is that when I believe something and um, thereby predict that such and such will happen, and it doesn't, then I am assuming that my belief was wrong, and that what that means is that there is something else other than my belief. My belief about reality, this other thing, was incorrect. That 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 is inherent in the meaning of making a mistake.
I don't see it. I understand. Let me change what I mean by that.
Uh-huh.
I can understand how you can come to that conclusion, but there is a leap of faith, quote unquote, that that happens in order for you to do that. That is, it's just not appropriate. And I think what you're overlooking,
Why is it not appropriate?
it's inappropriate because you're overlooking a critical piece of where, so to speak, of that um, incorrect prediction is happening. Your prediction and the outcome of your prediction are both still happening inside your subjective experience. And furthermore,
I agree.
so to then say that incorrection implies something outside my subjective experience, possibly, but the reality, in my opinion, what's happening is that your belief, it's your imagination. You're saying to yourself, all you have is your subjective experience. You made the prediction in your subjective experience. It didn't come to fruition in your subjective experience. So basically, you are making a prediction not about reality. You are making a prediction about how your subjective experience would change if you did something. And
Yeah.
the fact that you made that prediction that was wrong tells you nothing more than what is happening in your subjective experience. To
No,
make
it
the leap,
tells me that something else is happening than what's in my subjective experience.
how?
It tells me that the the structure of existence, so to speak, which is not, that's introducing a lot of
Yeah,
new
it's
stuff.
okay.
I'm trying to simplify it. Um, that what I observe within my subjective experience is the ability to predict. And what I also observe within my subjective experience is that those predictions may turn out to be what actually happens or something different. And that therefore my prediction can be correct or incorrect. And that that there is a whole lot that I predict accurately. Uh, Everything I do, there's a prediction as to what the immediate outcome will be, what it will feel like, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and but there are exceptions, and so um, And I know that these experiences, this subjective experience that I have, is just a model of this entity called reality, which is defined as that which is independent of any beliefs about it or perceptions of it.
Okay, that's important. Say that definition of reality again.
Okay, it's the one I've always used.
That which is independent of my beliefs about it. Okay, is that what you said it was?
Well, it's a little bit more general than that. And it, of course, involves the concept of the model, which we could get into, but my subjective experience, I consider to be a model of the way things, quote, really are, and that really are is reality. And my my beliefs are just a model of it. My perceptions are just a model of it, are models of it.
Models of reality.
Yes.
Okay.
And they can be accurate models or inaccurate models.
Okay, and they can be accurate. It can be accurate or inaccurate. All right.
Right.
So let me. So before I go through this, so what does all that mean to you? What you just said. So to you, does that constitute sufficient evidence to claim without doubt that reality exists?
Well,
that reality exists independent.
Without doubt is a little bit of a problem because doubt has to do with the accuracy of belief. And what I'm saying, the way that I'm saying this is that inherent in the concept of accuracy is that there is that which really is so, i.e., reality. That's inherent in the concept of accuracy.
Okay.
And I'm
That's an
all
important point.
saying, yeah.
Okay, so it seems to me that in terms of some of your definitions, you're using like a circular definition. You're saying that embedded with the idea of inaccuracy is the implication of a reality. But you're also using accuracy, the word accuracy, to prove the existence of reality. So it's
No, not to prove the existence. That
okay.
it is a way of stating that
Okay.
that my experience, my beliefs about, or my perceptions of reality can be wrong, but that they are just models of something, and the models can be accurate or inaccurate.
Right. So I'm going to answer the question again. That do those models show you? Do those models provide evidence for the existence of reality to the point where you cannot doubt its existence?
Well, it's a little bit more than that. As I say, reality is the idea of reality is inherent in the concept that I have beliefs.
So by inherent in, Does that mean it's axiomatic?
I think so. Now let me explain something a little bit further here.
Yeah.
When
I know you lost my video. I'm just walking outside because I'm afraid he's going to pee in the house. We're making a lot of progress. Please don't let this into. I'm going to turn my video on in about 3 seconds. Please continue your thinking. I'm just getting a towel, getting a blanket so I can be warm. Okay, here we go. Continue.
Okay. I don't remember where I was.
No! I was afraid that was going to happen. I said that, does that, are you saying that?
Oh, I remember now. Yeah. I first want to use an analogy. If you were going to make a model of something, let's say a model car, then you have to get materials together and put them together in a particular way.
Hold on a minute. If you were going to make a model of, what do you mean by a model? You mean like a little scale model?
Yes. Okay, so we need to back up. See, this is in the mind-body problem book.
Well, there's a lot of different, in the mind-body problem book, you use a number of examples of a model. A model of a car could be a simulation in a computer. That's also a model. So I need to know what kind of model you're talking about.
Yeah. What I was going to say was that I wanted to clarify the basic meaning of the word model.
Okay.
And the way that I do that in the book is I say, well, a rock is sitting in mud and the mud dries. And then somehow the rock becomes dislodged. And so there's an impression in the ground and the rock is somewhere else. Now, the surface of the rock is a model of the impression in the ground. The impression in the ground is a model of the surface of the rock. The reason for saying it is a model is that it can be used to predict a model can be used to predict characteristics of that of which it is a model, such that, see, and there's the word predict. So you can take a look at the surface of the rock and say, oh, well, I'll bet the surface of the mud is a particular way, and then you can go and check that out. Okay, so then you can, so a model is something that can be used to predict accurately the characteristics of that of which it is a model. And that's a very basic concept, basic in the mind-body problem book.
I recall.
Yeah. And now one can construct a model. And in that case, one goes about doing something, putting together certain things, whether they are pieces of metal or whether they are paint on a canvas, or whether they are words in a sentence, or whether they are mathematical symbols in the form of equations, etc. That if taking one of those sets of things, one can predict something about that which it is said to be the model of, then the model is accurate. Okay, so now the putting together of the model is not something that maybe you would want to use the words a priori or a priori or whatever to describe. It is, so it's not like you can prove something about the model other than whether it accurately portrays the, in other words, don't know how to state it. So when we get back to my beliefs and my perceptions and so forth about reality, then those things can be analyzed further and the thoughts about them rearranged and so on.
Okay.
But I've lost a really good logical extension here.
Well, I wonder if you're losing it or if you're running into that circular thinking. Let me explain. So, I opened up um, your statements you just made in response to I asked you. I had said, is reality axiomatic to your idea of a model? And you said, I think so. And he kind of went through it. And based on what you just said, I think that's an accurate statement. I think reality is simply axiomatic to the idea of a model. Would you agree?
Say it again.
The existence of reality is axiomatic in your idea of a model. There's no
Yes,
such thing of a model without reality.
I believe that that is correct. Yes.
Okay. Here's where the circular thinking is. And this is when you said, I don't know how to state it, it's because you were encountering it. So if reality is axiomatic to your idea of a model, then how can you use the idea of a model to show the existence of reality?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me interrupt. Good point.
Okay.
I think indeed there are that my earlier statement was probably not optimal. My earlier statement was that there is evidence for reality in the ability to predict accurately and inaccurately. And the second statement would be that the existence of reality is axiomatic to the idea that one can indeed have engage in prediction that can either be mistaken or not. Yes, it's probably axiomatic.
Okay. So if it's axiomatic, then there's a real concern I have in trying to use a model to show the existence of something which the model assumes is axiomatic, and that being reality, the existence of it.
Well, I would say that the answer to that probably is ultimately that it works. It works with tremendous success, and furthermore, is, as far as I can see, completely essential to our ability to survive, to exist. If there was no such thing as predictability, and the ability to be right or wrong. It would be like any old thing could happen at any old time, and one would not be able to do anything with any expectation that the result would be such and such. There would be no ability to cooperate. There would be no ability to do anything.
Well, just because, well, I think of a couple of things. I don't think it's, reality can be axiomatic to the idea of a model. And you may not be able, and as such, you may not be able to use the idea of a model to show the existence of reality. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you throw out the whole concept. It doesn't mean the whole concept is wrong and it's something else. It might just mean that something needs to be attached to the idea of a model that that shows the existence of reality, and that's okay.
Well, I don't see that at all. I can you go back over that?
Well, let me make an analogy. Um, Newton, with his equations of gravity, kind of described gravity, kind of, and how it worked really, really well. But it didn't explain why there was action at a distance between Jupiter and the sun. But those ideas worked and those equations worked, and you don't throw them out. It just took Einstein to explain how something 93 million miles away from the Earth can have an instantaneous effect on the Earth.
Okay. Now, well, I think there are gravitational waves, but I'm not real proficient in all of that. But
well, what I just meant, it's a curvature of space.
Yeah.
That's just what I meant.
Okay. In other words, Newton's model was very accurate within a range of observations, but it turned out that it was not completely accurate. But you couldn't develop, couldn't see the discrepancies within a range of observations. But when you used larger distances or higher speeds and so forth, then it turned out that his model was a submodel, so to speak, that was consistent with the larger model that explained Newton's model, but added on more explanatory capability.
Right. So this is important. So where this leads me back to is when I had said earlier, when I dig my heels in the sand and I start being argumentative, it's not that I don't agree with the premise of maybe what you're believing and stating, that reality exists, but the degree to which you have confidence in that and your explanation of why you have such strength in that, that's what I'm pushing back against. So whenever you to use your idea of a model, which requires axiomatically this idea of reality, to then try to show and prove the existence of reality, that's just almost logically inconsistent, which is why I'm giving such pushback. Doesn't mean that reality doesn't exist. Doesn't mean I don't believe it exists. It means I'm giving you serious pushback on that line of reasoning.
Well, I see what you're saying about the my first statements that, oh yes, there is one very good bit of evidence of the existence of reality, and that is predictability. And then subsequently, I see how predictability really has as a part of its meaning that there is a reality that one can predict, or that determines the results of one's the outcomes of one's observations.
Right. And I agree
with that.
You do. Okay. Yeah, and I also see that 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 just because it might be logically inconsistent in the way we're talking doesn't mean you throw out that whole idea. It doesn't mean the whole idea is bad. It means, like most ideas, they have limits to what they can explain and show.
Well, what I would say though is that I can't imagine at all an alternative um, uh, that would be as useful and effective. It's like everything we uh, everything we do and our whole existence fits into that way of looking at it. And I don't see any other way of looking at it. You apparently do, or at least, and maybe I'm not correct about that, but what you have said is that if something is not in your subjective experience, it doesn't exist.
No.
So that your wife does not exist unless you're seeing her or thinking about her.
Let me let's take a step back in terms of what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that, like any other theory, such as Newton's, that can't explain certain things, but there's nothing else, that doesn't mean Einstein should have said to himself, well, you know, I can't, I can't think of anything else of what it could be. So I'm not going to spend 12 years trying to think of another explanation, even though there are parts of Newton that clearly doesn't make sense. It means that we as explorers, I think we explore philosophy, Einstein explored the natural sciences, should recognize a limitation of an idea and acknowledge its validity, but also be open to exploring other possible explanations to kind of close the gap of the limitations in an earlier theory.
Yeah, well, I am open to. That's why I've been listening
Mm-hmm.
to you and questioning you, and
Mm-hmm.
over spent many hours trying to understand how this alternative worldview could in some way be feasible or useful or whatever. And
Right.
by the way, you're almost invisible in the dark.
Oh crap! I'll turn my lights on. Yeah. So and I agree that similar to your theory. I mean, I think without a doubt, you can claim and show pretty easily that you know solipsism certainly has limitations. I mean, I think throughout history there have been lots of philosophers that may not have been able to show that solipsism was wrong, but they certainly had very, very strong arguments that punched holes through it. And I acknowledge those holes. I don't think like I said, solipsism cannot explain when something happens to me randomly. That I get hit by a car, like, well, that sure does seem to imply the existence of something outside my subjective experience. But here again, even with what I am saying now, I am not being true to the idea of solipsism. Solipsism does not extend and does not support or even acknowledge the idea that reality does not exist. That's not what it is. All it says is that the only thing that you can confidently believe in, and we should talk about what confidence means, is in what your perceptions are sampling about it. That's all it means.
You can't confidently believe in them if you consider that they could be incorrect, that you could be dreaming, that you could be delusional, that you could be mistaken, and so forth.
Well, the idea of I think what solipsism means, be confident in. Let me take more through it. That if you see the mirage of, if I see my dead grandmother sitting next to me, and I know that my grandmother's dead. Okay, so the only thing that I can be truly confident in believing is that I am getting data in my subjective experience that I'm seeing the image of my dead grandmother sitting next to me. Now, what I believe about that sensory input is something that solipsism doesn't address. You can believe that is not, solipsism takes no position on that. Solipsism just says what you have to, the only thing you can be sure about is that you are getting data in your perceptual field, so to speak, that my dead grandmother is sitting in front of me. Now, I might then choose to believe she's a ghost, or I might choose to believe I'm schizophrenic and I have to go see a psychiatrist. But solipsism would claim what's actually happening with the ghosts and what's happening outside your perceptual field, that the only thing that you can be sure of is that you're seeing the image of your grandmother. That's
Okay.
what solipsism is.
Okay, well, if that's what one means by being sure about, is another way of talking about the confidence level that one has about a particular belief. And indeed, when you're seeing something, you are believing that it's there, although you can have an alternative belief that even though I'm seeing it, it is not, quote, really there. But I understand subjective experience, you can be confident that, well, that's what you're experiencing. It looks to me like we have really just about come to agreement.
Almost. Yeah, we are there. And I think what's really important that I've recognized in this conversation is that I'm really I have been reacting to and have become argumentative over like I said before, over the 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 structure of the arguments you're making, and they have not been really reflective of my actual beliefs. And I am going to a much better job delineating that.
Uh,
Um, but I just want to end on something very important because it sounds like we might have to go. Um, you just made something that I've thought about, okay, which is something that I think you said, we talked about, you see something in your perceptual field. Okay, so the interesting question, do you have a choice to not see what's in your perceptual field? I would argue no. What you see in your field is what you see in your field.
well, I don't think that I said that you did have a choice. I don't think I made a statement one way or
Well,
the other.
no, I don't. I mean, I think it's almost, it's begging the question. I think this is very relevant to the idea of solipsism. The reason why the
Well,
only
choice has to do with agency.
well, right. So you have no agency in in choosing what data comes into your perceptual field. It just
That
comes.
might or might not be true with some forms of meditation, the effort to bring about certain subjective experience that one has not had.
Yeah, that's not what I meant by agency. I
Uh-huh.
mean, like, if I am seeing the image of my dead grandmother,
Mhm.
I can choose not to see the image of my dead grandmother.
Well, there may be a little bit of control that you have over that. Uh,
Really?
um, for instance, let's say the perception is pain coming in from a joint. You can decide, I'm going to remove that sensation of pain. And I think you can do it to a certain extent,
Ah, but in
like
both,
self-hypnosis.
but that still presupposes you're getting the initial stimuli of the pain.
Yeah.
You're reacting to it.
Yeah.
That is important.
Well, I think this may be opening out into a new topic area that is not real clearly defined right yet.
No, I think so also. Yeah, I think, I think we've made a lot of progress today. I think
Yeah.
I've made a lot of progress understanding my reaction and exactly what I'm arguing for and against. I think that you've also made some realizations with
Yeah.
regards to,
Yes.
reality being axiomatic and the idea of a model and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like, should we wrap it up?
Okay, we can do that. And,
All right. And before we end, I want to wish you luck on Tuesday.
thank you.
And I want to also add that these conversations and knowing you have brought so much added value, and I appreciate you so much, Bill. I do not know what I would do without you if you weren't in my life.
Well,
So,
I really, it's the same in reverse.
well,
This has been very valuable to me.
good. Yeah, same here.
Okie doke.
I'll talk to you then.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You